Deadheads, a supplementary podcast.
Hello and welcome to the second episode of Deadheads, a supplementary podcast to Dead Air, a horror podcast. So this is the second episode. So if you haven't heard the first one, please scroll back on your Spotify, search for that one, and click that one because that's a lot of fun. So just a quick introduction to Deadheads. As we said in the first episode, this is going to be a recurring part of our podcast family here at Dead Air, which is basically we have three of our biggest horror fans on our Facebook group, and we corral them together for a monthly session where we talk about some of the more recent horror films that came out in the last few months or so. And then maybe at the end of the year, we'll have a whole wrap-up session where we talk about our favorite horror films of the year and, you know, the worst ones. But for this episode, we're going to be talking about just one film. And before we get to that, let's have all three of you introduce each other. So who wants to go first?
Hey everyone, I'm Emil. Sorry, should I have gone first?
No.
I'm so sorry. I'm just so excited.
You got
Anyway, sorry. I'm Emil, and I'm a casual horror fan and an A24 horror fanboy.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Who's next on this list?
Okay.
Go ahead,
I'll go.
Anthony.
Yeah, so I'm Anthony. I can say that I'm a casual horror fan, but I'm leaning more towards...
Sorry, I have to interrupt. The both of you have
Are
the
serious?
weirdest definition of casual. Like, what is wrong with you? Like,
They're the most
you
serious
guys
horror fans.
have seen the most horror films on anyone in the group. Like, what are you
I
talking
think
about?
Emil has seen more films than me.
Like
What is
casual,
wrong?
as in I just lie back and watch and not really like dive deep into the details.
Okay.
You
I'm
have
sorry I
a blog.
interrupted
You
you,
have a
Anthony.
horror blog.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
I mean, casual in a sense. Now, you don't watch all horror films. Probably you only select a few and then chug it all in. So, yeah, I can say that I'm pretty casual when it comes to watching horror films. But yeah, I think
Lie.
I'm leaning more towards body horror and cosmic horror, though. So,
nice.
yeah.
Okay, very specific. I love that. You're the biggest Cronenberg fan I know. Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's go with our third guest or guest host.
Hi guys. I'm Franny, and like these two before me, I'm also a casual horror fan with evolving tastes as well. Like growing up, I was into the supernatural, psychological horror genre. But now it's becoming a bit more perverted because I'm discovering a lot of old European cinema. So I'm the horror pervert, the horror tita.
Oh shit! I love it.
With
We
H.
are
Horror
in
pervert.
progressive days right now.
Yeah.
Franny
I love
has
it.
the collection of horror daddies, by the way. So
Yes.
it
I
changes
just discovered that. I just discovered that.
Oh, no.
every month. She has a different daddy. So
Yeah. The last one I heard about was Dexter. But yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you for introducing yourself, guys. Now let's go to the meat of this episode, which is we're going to be talking about a pretty interesting movie. And when I say interesting, I really mean interesting. So let's go with Emil. Would you like to tell us what movie we're talking about today, and I guess how you guys came up with a choice for this one?
yeah. So for today's episode, it's a wild, crazy, and psychedelic immersive experience of a film. And this is Ben Wheatley's In the Earth. And I think the best person to really talk about it, introduce us to it, would be Anthony, because this is his pick for today's episode.
Boom! Let's hear it, Anthony. What is
Yeah, I don't know.
Earth about?
Actually, the movie just came out of the chat room, so I wasn't really expecting the movie to be discussed in the podcast. I was just expecting, just a casual discussion in the chat room for In the Earth. But yeah, the reason why I recommended the movie is because I want to see more fans into Ben Wheatley, because I think most of us here in the Philippines do not know Ben Wheatley that much when it comes to horror. I think only the hardest of horror fans know Ben Wheatley. So I want
hardest of horror fans, or do you mean the casual fans like you? How do you know Ben Wheatley, Mr. Casual Horror Man?
I watched Kill List, which was my first Ben Wheatley horror experience, and it was one of the best horror movies that I've seen in a while. Yeah. And then I looked at his filmography, and then I discovered another horror film, which is I Feel in England, which is another psychedelic experience. And then after that, I dug up all of his films, and then I discovered Sightseers, which is also a good black comedy film. And then he also has The High Rise and then Free Fire, which are non-horror films, I say. But yeah, probably In the Earth is the most interesting among the list because it was set during the pandemic, and it's quite relatable to what is happening today. And In the Earth is about it's about a scout ranger and a scientist who ventured into the deep forest in England, searching for answers amidst the pandemic. And then weird things happen along the way.
Very
super weird. Very weird. And another interesting fact about this is that 3 of the main actors were actually in horror films previously. So the lead female, Alma, played by Elora Torchera, she was in Midsommar. She was a supporting character. And then the other female, Olivia, played by Hayley Squires, she was in another British horror film. Forgot the name. In Fabric. Yeah, she was the lead actress there. And then
look at this casual fan.
Yeah, I was about to say, how casual.
So casual, this fan.
And then the crazy guy, Zach, played by Reese Shearsmith. Reese Shearsmith. Yeah, he was in Feel in England. He was the lead actor. So, yeah, Ben really knows who to cast in his films. And it was a pretty immersive experience. And after my first watch, I was like, what the fuck did just happen? I mean, there were a lot of questions though, but yeah, it was a pretty interesting experience to me. It's like watching, it's like being high without actually consuming drugs.
Yes. Yeah.
So imagine if you're actually high while watching it. Yeah.
Yeah, while watching it.
Panic attack.
Yeah. I think I got a panic attack watching it.
Yeah, without
and I wasn't high. But yeah. Franny, are you familiar with Ben Wheatley's films? I'm gonna say myself. I've only seen Kill List and this one, so I'm not so like exposed to his stuff. How about you, Franny?
This is my third that I've seen. I've seen High Rise and Kill List, and I really like both because I like the folk horrorness of Kill List, and I like the brutalist set design of High Rise. And they were two very different movies, but it's nice seeing the tension between the actors, between the characters in even High Rise. Like it has a horror vibe, even if you wouldn't normally classify that film as horror. It has this kind of eeriness in the isolation of the setting of the movie.
Sure.
For those who've seen it.
Yeah, it was a creepy. I think dystopian would be the correct adjective.
Dystopian, yes. Yeah. Dystopian thriller kind of thing.
How about you, Emil? Have you seen more than 3 of Wheatley's film?
No, actually, this is the first time I've watched something of Ben Wheatley's. Cool. But after looking at the filmography, I'm excited by Meg 2. He's going to direct the shark films.
Yeah.
I'm excited by that.
Yeah, it's going to be brutal.
Yeah.
Did you guys see Rebecca? He also did that pala. Netflix.
Not a big fan.
Not yet.
Yeah. He also did Rebecca, but that was like the mainstream version of him.
But yeah, like after having watched In the Earth, I'm kind of excited for Ben Wheatley's future projects because he has he has a really good grip on horror elements, especially in this film, and it's very memorable indeed.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting that Emil has only seen one, Franny has seen 4, and Anthony has seen fucking everything. It's got a nice. It's got a nice. We've got a nice selection of people here. So I think that's a nice like contrasting thing we can do with what you think of his work. No, so we know that Anthony is a massive fan. And I'd really like to compare that to Emil, this is your first time seeing a Ben Wheatley film. So let's start with you, Emil. Like I really want. Because I mean, like for someone like for Franny or for Anthony, you guys know like certain recurring themes, recurring like film language. But this is your first, Emil. So how was this? Because he's got a very, very distinctive style. I mean, in the 2 that I've seen, you know what I mean. So how do you like this?
Well, for me, the first thing I noticed was that it was a mishmash of genres or horror elements. There's eco horror, with the focus on nature, with how I guess they're there in the forest to investigate the connection of how plants talk to each other. I think you may correct me if I'm wrong. And the eco horror comes out when, of course, the characters become victims themselves of what's happening around them. And there's also, of course, the usual survival horror, because we have these 2 characters who are trying to survive the crazy pair of scientists hiding out in the woods. And that's really, really exciting for me. And there's also folk horror, like what Franny mentioned. I forgot the name, but there's supposed to be like
I think Parnagfeg was the name of the series.
Yeah.
Parnagfeg.
Something, maybe someone can explain it later, but it has to deal with a folk horror because Zach, one of the scientists, was really obsessed about Parnagfeg. And all these elements combined together, it really provided kind of, I don't want to say incoherent, but there is a message there with all of these elements put together. But in the end, I don't think that was the point anymore to understand what it's trying to say. I think the point was we're at the mercy of nature, and we're gonna be as crazy as Zach and Dr. Olivia if we try to understand it. Maybe that's my interpretation. But overall, as a first time viewer of Ben Wheatley's movie In the Earth, it's memorable, it's crazy, but it's also something that makes you think after watching it. But I don't think I'll be watching it again because I'm sorry. It's just a bit too disorienting for me. But in terms of the content itself, maybe I can just read up about it again. So
Perfect. So how about you, Anthony? No, because like I know he's like we said earlier, he's got his really distinct film language. Like he's got the quick cuts, he's got the jarring cuts, the really strange framing. Remember like I always think that image of the stone, and then the circular hole cut through it, and then so it's got very jarring imagery, jarring editing style, and the way he lights things also are very, very interesting. But you and Franny, you guys have seen a lot of his stuff. Compared to Emil, who this is his first one. How do you guys, rank this in his work?
I think another interesting concept about Ben Wheatley is that he loves satire and black comedy. So if you notice, most of his films
there were funny
pack a lot of there were darkly funny stuff mentioned throughout the film. And I think that's another standout concept for Ben Wheatley. And looking at his pattern of films, I think he's starting to explore his outside horror, especially after In the Earth. I think he's going with Meg 2. So which is kind of interesting because Ben Wheatley used to make movies outside of the mainstream stuff, and then now he's directing Meg 2. So we're excited of what will happen.
But it is the weirdest choice for a director for Meg.
Exactly.
Maybe it's a psychedelic shark
know what's gonna happen.
And I think I think In the Earth has comparisons with A Field in England.
Field in England.
Oh, yeah. Although Phil in England has a different execution style. It's more of a period horror film. Unlike In the Earth is more of an eco horror film. But they have similar elements like the lines, the black comedy, and then both are pretty gnarly. So that's another Ben Wheatley style. Most of his films are pretty gnarly when it comes to gore and brutality.
How about you, Franny? How do you rate this in the ones that you've seen?
To be honest, I don't know if it was because I had different expectations about a pandemic movie, but it's okay. Rebecca, I don't know if Rebecca counts because it still had some horror elements.
Yeah.
So to me, Rebecca is the lowest, and then out of what I've seen, obviously, this would be the second lowest, and then it would be High Rise, and then Kill List at the top. It's only because of my expectations of what the story was going to be. I don't know if I was in the right mindset while watching, but I found myself zoning out a bit. Maybe it was my brain's defense mechanism to all the strobe lights. Because if you stare too long, you're gonna get like an epileptic seizure or something.
Disorienting, yeah.
Totally agree. I had to look away a number of times. So God, it was so in your face. The stories.
And like the story, I don't know. It seemed like it was kind of making us gago or something, diba?
Yeah, exactly.
They kept right, like
that's the whole intention of the film.
Yeah, like they lost their shoes and stuff. Yeah. But that was the scariest part for me when they got drugged by Zach.
Yeah, and start so fun. That entire scene was so fun.
That's great.
That was the climax for me. Yeah, that was so scary. I was really scared because it seemed so sadistic. I thought it was gonna take that turn, like be a slasher film, right?
Yeah, I think also the creepiest part was Olivia doing the piano and then the pictures of their other victims. That was the creepiest part for me.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing the ritualistic pictures was really fun and scary.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Another interesting fact on the movies, I think they mentioned the book Hammer of the Witches, which is a very controversial book about witchcraft. I think it was Olivia. Yeah, and it's a real one. So I think it was Olivia mentioned it while during their first meetup with Alma and Martin. Yeah, she mentioned the book Hammer of the Witches, which is pretty controversial and interesting book, I say.
Why is it controversial?
Well, we all know witchcraft, with today's era and all the satanic panic. Because I think the book contains most stuff about medieval witchcraft.
Nice.
So I actually haven't read the book, but I've read articles about the book. Yeah. It's a pretty interesting book about witchcraft, and the fact that it was mentioned and it was given focus in one scene of the movie makes it more interesting because it kind of shows Ben Wheatley's expertise as a director. He researches his stuff, unlike some directors who just puts in facts, useless facts, rather than,
stuff backed up. By evidence.
Exactly, yeah. He knows when to back it up. Yep.
Okay, so we talked about Ben Wheatley's style. We've talked about how psychedelic the movie is, and the synopsis and what it's about. Not what it's about. What we think it's the message is, but what's the plot? The plot is like sincerely, boil it down. Let's dumb it down. Because I'm struggling to explain the plot by myself. So maybe you guys have a better way of doing it.
Okay. Should I start? Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe I'll start. Yeah. I think to me, it's more of humans. It's more of the human mind creating its own demons. I think the Parnab Fed was more of a myth just to scare people into venturing into the forest. And then, although there were a couple of inexplicable events that happened on the film, especially about their stuff that went missing. And yeah, but I guess it's more of the dangers of the human mind, creating paranoia and all. And I think the shroom thought was just a trigger event for their mind to disintegrate. And then, although at the end part, it gets really confusing. Not sure what happened to Olivia. I think she died out of exhaustion. Because
so let's if we broke the plot down into A, B, C, D, E, and we start off with two people venturing off into the woods to I guess to research about the strange goings on
fungi.
Yes.
during the pandemic, and they meet a scientist who has kind of barricaded himself in that preserve for a really long time, who's obviously gone crazy, and he captures them and he does some folk rituals, and they meet his ex-wife.
Yeah.
Who is also the ex-girlfriend of
who's
Martin.
also the ex of the other guy. Okay, what happens after that?
She turns out to
In
be
terms of the plot.
Yeah.
We're just talking. Okay, what happened? I have a hard time explaining.
So when they met Olivia, she has her own explanation about what she was doing. I think Zach and Olivia have different styles about how to invoke Parnag Fig. I think to me, Zach was
went crazy, right?
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
Although according to Olivia, it was Zach who went crazy. But it was actually both of them who went crazy.
Yeah, both of them are definitely insane.
Although Olivia was more doing of a scientific side of it, and then Zach was doing more of the occult side of it. I think that's my 2 cents. So it's a mix of occult and science. But the bottom line is that they're using fungi as the catalyst, I say. Yep.
Yeah. So what happens at the end?
I don't know.
We can go into spoilers. It's fine.
I've rewatched the film a couple of times, but I can't really fathom what happens in the end. So
yeah, it's like the end of 2001. It's just like psychedelic,
open interpretation.
Exactly.
Yeah, the Parnag Fig myth kind of lost it during the end, and then it just went pure psychedelia during its last sequences, and then I think that was the downside of the movie. There were a lot of unanswered questions to me, and I wish they could have explored more of the Parnag Fig part, because it was a very interesting concept. I mean, it's the first time that I've heard of Parnag Fig, and then I immediately researched it, and then I found out that it was just a made-up story in the movie. And then, I'm not sure if it was really a folk. It was really based on the folklore, but it was just a made-up story in the movie. But it wasn't really mentioned at the end. And then, I think they went on trance.
Straightforward, because I think why I keep asking that question about the plot is because for me, like I've only seen this one and The Kill List, which was a lot more straightforward in terms of its storytelling. It was very clear, and it had a very, very clear ending. And this one is very, wide open to interpretation. So that's why I guess I'm trying to figure out how to explain it, is because it wasn't straightforward. It really was kind of like, what do you think? You know what I mean? Like, is it because the whole, it ends with all these like beautiful jarring images of nature and the strobing and everything. It's like, is that supposed to be us going crazy as viewers? Were we affected by the forest ourselves?
Actually, I think that was my interpretation as well. It's so funny because throughout the entire film, I started to feel like I was Alma. Like, what the hell am I doing here? I want to just leave. I want to escape. And then eventually,
especially when
especially when
she was placed in that hazmat suit, right, to go through that whole experience.
The shroom cloud.
The mist.
She became our POV.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, like
yes, right?
the hell with this. I
think-
just want to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She was the MVP though. She was the real
Yeah.
MVP in the
Yes,
movie.
Fantastic.
she was the kawawa one also.
Yeah. Everyone was like, I mean, if we're going to jump into performances, though, I mean, they were all excellent.
Yeah,
The
they
actors
were all good.
incredible. Everyone was incredible.
You have to watch Reese Shearsman's performance in A Field in England. He was awesome. So it's a
He's
test
Zach.
of his
He's-
acting prowess.
he's Zach.
Yeah, Zach.
That's Zach.
Yeah, he's
Nice.
And then
Also-
Haley Squires. Yeah, sorry, good.
Sorry. Sorry. Going back to what Chris said. Yeah. In the end, I think we just succumbed. Like they did. They succumbed
Yeah.
to the nature, I guess, the spores, to the fungi, and I think the
That's
same.
kind of-
Yeah, that's the point.
That's how I kind of read it.
Like no
Yeah.
matter how hard we try to explain it, we still can't, and we're just going to be. We're going to succumb eventually. So
I mean, they
that's
actually
my
never explained
takeaway.
the actual pandemic, diba?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
think so.
yeah.
Yeah, it was an actual pandemic.
They just
Onset.
mentioned a pandemic, but they never
Yes.
talk
Yeah.
about what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe
What
that
era?
was the
Oh.
pandemic.
Yep.
In the
It's
start,
great.
it sounded very much like the COVID pandemic. Actually,
Yes,
was like
right?
the rubbing of alcohol. So it's
Yeah.
probably meant to
The
throw us
protocol.
off, make us expect
Mhm.
that we were gonna be watching a movie like Contagion.
Yeah. So maybe
No, I
that's the
think-
message.
I think in the end, Olivia and Zach were kind of successful in their doings because I think part of Fed was the mist cloud, or the cloud of shroom. I think that's what they were trying to summon.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, that's just my own interpretation though, but I could be wrong. I could definitely be wrong. But yeah, I think part of it was the interpretation of that whole cloud thing that was giving them, nausea and shit. But but I think because at the start of the film, part of it was like forest deity that was used to tease or to scare children into going into the woods. So since they were adults, they were unaffected by that fact. So I guess that was it. Yeah. But yeah, it was really confusing at the end. Very confusing.
But I think it was. I think it was obviously confusing on purpose. Like it's not like
it was made on purpose.
It's supposed to be confusing. Like what's happening? It's supposed to be disorienting. Everything about the film is disorienting, and I think that's why that's his genius.
But
he's an incredible filmmaker.
But another interesting thing is that we rarely see films with, we rarely see plant-related horror films. I think we've seen The Ruins. We have that classic movie.
Sorry, what is it? The Happening.
Yeah,
The Happening.
Yeah, The Happening.
Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, that one. The
Jumanji.
Little Shop of Horrors. Jumanji. I mean, it's a pretty interesting concept because, the thought of getting consumed by
Something from
plants.
spores. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty gnarly concept. And
Gaia.
I think-
That's another film.
Yeah,
Gaia.
We should talk about
Yep.
later on.
Gaia.
Watch it,
Yeah.
watch it. It's another.
Gaia's a good film too. Yeah, but
Would you also
I think-
consider like the body snatchers, or are they more like aliens? But
they're
you
more
think
like
worms?
aliens though. Yeah,
But there are
they-
spores, though, right?
but they are spores. But yeah, it was more of like an alien invasion. But I might have to categorize them with like shivers or rabbit. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
Okay.
interesting
So,
concept.
it is a very interesting movie. And that's why I started off introducing it as a very interesting choice, because it's an interesting movie. I mean, there's no way around it. I mean, take it as you will, what that means, whatever, But I think one of the great things that we really kind of touched on earlier, but I kind of want to expound on, is some of his sequences are incredible. I mean, for all the ambiguity of the film, there are some sequences which are so effective. Like you were talking, I think, Franny, about the
Foot, the foot.
the foot.
Yeah,
Best scene ever.
Scariest
That was
scene, right?
incredible.
That's
That
why I
scene was
messaged you guys.
incredible.
that was
So
pretty disgusting.
the scene is like he's paralyzed, or he's bound, and his foot is it's infected.
On the chopping block.
Yeah,
On the
just
chopping-
playing around with it. That's the dark
Zach is
comedy
about to-
aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zach says he has to chop off his
amputate.
toe.
Yeah,
Which is so weird, because like you can see the infection is on the sole of his foot, and it's like, why are you chopping off the little
Yeah.
toe? Like it's like And then like he misses so many times, and then the tension
gives you
that's
some
created.
hope.
That makes it more scary.
That's an
that was the
incredible thing.
scarier part. Like before it actually got severed, it was scarier when they were preparing to do it, telling him you don't have to do this. It was so scary.
This is incredible sequence. So yeah. I mean, like in that sense, I mean, I know when we say that a film is ambiguous, that might turn people off, but I don't think that's what we're saying about this film. I mean, this film's incredible. I mean, it's hard to watch for me. I'd love to hear what you guys think about it, but I found it very difficult to watch. But I recognized all the talent that was behind the making of the film, I really enjoyed it in a really fucked up way. And I know it's
perfect to watch it
again because I find it so much easier to talk about films that have really straightforward plots. This one did not, obviously. So I'm kind of struggling with my words when I'm talking about this film. But how about you guys? Or let's do our quick wrap up of In the Earth before we head out. So let's do it one by one. That was mine, I guess. Let's start with Franny. I would love to hear what you have to say. Words for In the Earth.
I might be the more unpopular opinion side of this conversation because for me, I love the movie not because of the story, but because of the visuals. Like I really like the desolate feeling of being in the woods and the feeling of like being it's like how we were or still are lost in the pandemic. So it's like a metaphor for being lost in the woods, but it's way more beautiful than what we're going through right now. So at the same time, it's also like an escape for us to sort of relate to these people, but at the same time enjoy that kind of visual treat.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, like, since I'm the unpopular opinion, decidedly, it made me want to watch. It made me crave watching a real pandemic horror film. Like It Comes at Night. That's what I was comparing it to in my head.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because like they're in the woods also isolated, and I wanted that kind of action about something as urgent as a virus taking over their lives, something that they're really running from urgently like that. But at the same time, of course, Ben Wheatley was so good. You could feel his distinct flavor in this film.
Mm-hmm.
And looking forward to seeing more films of his like that.
Looking forward to seeing The Meg too.
Yes, The Meg.
Yeah.
It will probably be different.
Underwater shrooms.
How about you? Thank you for that, Franny. How about you, Emil? Let's end with Anthony.
I'd like to say that this film may not be for everyone, and it's definitely a very interesting experience. For me personally, I enjoyed it casually until the middle part of the film. But then once you get to the latter part where they get deep into the woods, into all the shrooms and parnagfeg, just try your best not to understand it anymore and just go along with it. Like what Fanny said, just immerse yourself with the visual and auditory barrage. And at the end of the film, just, I don't know, think about nature and nature itself and how we're at the mercy of nature. So that's for me. Yeah.
Love it. Thank you, Emil. And now let's end with Anthony. What are your final words on In the Earth?
Truthfully, I have to place it in the middle of the list when it comes to Ben Wheatley's films. Killers is still the best film to me, and then followed by either Sightseers or A Film in England. I think India is a pretty divisive movie. To those who have watched or to those who have knowledge of Ben Wheatley's films, it's definitely a positively immersive experience. But to those who are not familiar with these films, this could spell trouble, because to those who are not familiar with this style might find the film confusing. Or to those who are not familiar with the shroom style might find the film rather, what the fuck? what the fuck am I watching? What the shit is this? So yeah, to me, it's a pretty divisive film. Although it's kind of the opposite of what I felt when I watched Wrong Turn. Wrong Turn 2021. So we kind of associate a film with the other films, and then when we compare it, it becomes lackluster. Well, this one, okay. Yeah, it was the exact opposite of what we perceive. So we actually liked the film because it was associated with a director. But as a standalone movie, or let's say if for someone who have not watched any of his films, then this could definitely be a mess.
Interesting. Yeah. Very, very cool. Wow, that was a fun discussion. Thank you guys. That movie was an experience.
It certainly was.
It certainly was. And so that was fun going through that with the three of you. So that's our episode 2 of Deadheads.
Wow.
I am excited.
Yay.
2 episodes in. I'm really excited for our third episode. If we go ahead with the choice that we kind of pushed.
Wait, do we already have a choice?
Is it
the
classic choice now?
Except the classic horror story.
But we can't.
Oh well, it could be your choice.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
We can't talk about it yet, but if we go through with Franny's choice, I think episode 3 is going to be really interesting too.
No, but my 2 choices aren't out yet, ate.
They've been postponing shit.
Then pick a perverted horror film, Franny.
Yeah. Either way, it's gonna be a fun choice.
Yeah, sana nga Benedetta pwede.
That's the one.
I'm so excited. Oh, I hope we get discuss
That's what I was referring to.
I really want to discuss that.
Can we?
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
who cares? We make the rules.
Exactly. This is your show. We make the rules. You guys make the rules. So yeah. So stay tuned for episode 3 of Deadheads coming in a month. Yay! And thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Yes,
Thanks,
thank you
guys.
also for having us.
Thanks.
Thank
you.
Exacto, pero